Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Data Standard Audio Experience. Today, we have Jatin Dewanwala, the head of research at Hildene Capital Management. And today, we're speaking about data and AI in the investment industry. So welcome to the show, Jatin. I'm excited to have you on the show today.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, definitely. Could you just go ahead and tell us about yourself and just introduce yourself to the audience?
Sure. So like I said, I am Jatin Dewanwala, the head of research at Hildene Capital Management. Hildene is a structured credit investing focused asset manager with nearly $12 billion in assets under management, and its headquarters are at Stamford, Connecticut.
That's perfect. And could you tell us more about your specific background and kind of more about your role and what you do?
Sure. Yeah. So maybe we could start with the background. I was born and raised in New Delhi, India. Formally, I'm trained as a mechanical engineer. I graduated from one of India's top engineering colleges called Delhi College of Engineering. And after graduating from there, I worked for 3 years as an R&D engineer at India's largest car manufacturer, Maruti Suzuki. And I was there for 3 years. The work was very exciting to begin with, but soon it became repetitive. And I was yearning for my books, honestly, and looking for more of an intellectual challenge. So I decided to apply to some graduate programs in the US with a view to leverage my math and science background. And I got accepted at Columbia University to attend the Master of Science in Financial Engineering program. And that was a very quantitatively oriented program. Looking back, it was my first exposure to data and models and how they are used in a high-flying field like finance to make real-time decisions. And it was a great learning experience. Pretty rigorous 12-month program. And at the end of which, I found an opportunity with Meta Capital Management, which is a New York-based hedge fund manager. And I was with them for 10 years, leading their structured credit investing initiative. And as part of that, I was responsible for trading, portfolio management, research, and everything from soup to nuts that was required to invest in structured credit securities. And so I joined them in 2006, which was a very interesting time to be in finance. As the financial crisis was just about to hit us. And at the time, from a data and models perspective, most of the models were backward looking. They were fitting some sort of, nice function or regression on top of historical data. And most of them pretty much assumed that home prices can never go down. And in a way, it was pretty self-serving for Wall Street to assume those, because that sort of assumption helped sell securities. Then the financial crisis hit and all of those models had to be thrown out into the garbage. And the senior management of Meta Capital at the time entrusted me with the responsibility for creating forward-looking models which would take macroeconomic policy and various government initiatives which were coming out pretty much every day into account and be more nimble and agile so that we could tweak our investment decisions based on whatever recent policy actions we were seeing. So that was very fun, and over my 10 years, we built a lot of interesting and rich models. And quite honestly, they were in large part responsible for my investing success. After 10 years with them, with a growing family at home, my kids were 1 and 3, I decided to take a break.
Yeah, that's awesome. It sounds like you have a lot of different paths that kind of led you to where you are today and what you do. And so how did the modern data science journey begin for you? Was there a specific project or a specific moment in time that drew yourself to data science specifically?
Yeah, absolutely. So I left Meta Capital in 2016 in April. And I remember in May, I took a trip to California to see one of my undergrad buddies. And he said that, you have time. Why don't you look at Coursera and, the machine learning course being offered by Stanford. And at the time, I had no idea, what massive open online courses are or what Coursera was all about. And just going through their roster of courses available, I felt like I was a kid in a candy store. Here I was being taught machine learning by Andrew Ng, one of the top practitioners in the space, all for $49. So that's where my journey began. And I remember, like, after taking the course, I tried to apply it, but then very soon realized that I just don't have the technical skills to apply it. I may understand various portions of it, but I can't really apply it. And again, I turned to Coursera, took courses in Python, read books, learned SQL again after many, many years, relearned linear algebra by going to Khan Academy from a machine learning perspective, and really felt ready that, like, now I have my old knowledge as well as, the data science angle covered to try and find a job again. But at the time, a major reservation with people that I was interviewing with was that, you have no demonstrable proof. You're saying all of these things, but you don't have a degree. There is no work experience to speak of. So why should we believe that you have this experience that you say? So I felt that was legit. I had to go back to the drawing board and take, like retool and take a real stab at applying it. And one of the things that helped me was that I became an investor at marketplace lending platform by depositing a few $1,000s. And as part of that, they would give you performance data on all the loans which had been originated up to that time on the platform. So this was like 30 million rows of performance data on like 2 million loans that you could now analyze. And the challenge then became like, how do you articulate a problem that you're going to solve? Because I have the data, but what is the problem that I'm trying to solve? And I remember like I spent like many hours cleaning and scrubbing the data, visualizing it, talking to the help desk, trying to understand the data dictionary better, all with the view of applying AI to create a portfolio of loans which would outperform, let's say, the benchmark portfolios that were available, by just randomly investing in loans on the platform. So once that was done, now how do I kind of disseminate this information? So I felt that, better way to go versus, just sending people pitch decks is to host a website, because then people can just click a link and just, read what I, have prepared together. So I ended up going to Udemy to learn web development now. So honestly, like looking back, MOOCs and books really got the job done for me at the time. And so the case study brought, a lot of interest and attention. I ended up having some meaningful conversations with people and ended up taking a job at Baycrest Partners, which is a small, scrappy outfit, which was trying to compete with the big boys of Wall Street for clients' business. And they really needed some sort of an edge. So that's where I came in with modern data science, and I helped them overhaul their entire analytics infrastructure and created like a state-of-the-art commercial mortgage-backed securities model for them, and also revolutionized a few processes which were even taking the bulge bracket firms like 2 days to compete. We were able to accomplish them in like 15 minutes or so. So the sales force really loved me for that, because I just gave them 2 days of time to go and have conversations that the competition couldn't, which helped them get market share. And at that time, this opportunity at Hildene opened up, and I joined them as the head of research back in 2019.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I also like that you touched on the idea of you using Coursera, because I think that's also a great platform to people to kind of just expand their skills and just learn more and gain more knowledge to help improve in the workplace, definitely.
Absolutely.
And yeah, and I just wanted to jump into specifically about your work at Hildene and more about your role. Could you just elaborate more on maybe what you
Sure.
do?
So as the head of research, I am responsible for overseeing investment strategy and research. I also chair the risk committee at Hildene. And as part of Hildene's extensive data science and analytics effort, I end up overseeing the technology and data engineering initiatives as well. Within, so Hildene, again, like all of these different functions are, brought together. And Hildene's taken a little bit of a different approach, which has helped my cause.
Yeah, and that sounds awesome. And could you tell us more about Hildene and how they've kind of used analytics and data science to really improve and inform investment decisions in the funds?
Sure. Yeah. So just to take a step back before we talk about Hildene, like within the structured credit investing space, there is an over reliance on third-party models and sell-side research overall. And I think what happens when everyone is looking at the same tools and reading the same research, you are informed, you're probably not missing out on much, but you're also not using data to gain an edge. So you may be at the same level as everyone else in the competition, but you're not trying to get ahead. What we're trying to do at Hildene is we're trying to be more in control of data and really use data and analytics as a way to differentiate ourselves from the competition and use it to gain an edge. So within data science and analytics, we can probably split it up into two parts. Let's maybe talk about analytics first. So Hildene's been around for a dozen years, and I would say that Hildene has differentiated itself by being a proactive investor in off the beaten track sectors. And even in more conventional spaces, we invest in spaces which are not that well trafficked or not that crowded. And when I joined Hildene a couple of years ago, I was really amazed at the level to which Hildene had researched opportunities, and the various like tiny nuances and how good a job Hildene had done capturing those nuances. So from like documentation to structural to like collateral composition, like Hildene had like probably the best data repository on those topics for the spaces it traffics in of anyone there in the world. The issue at that time was that all of this knowledge was trapped within Excel files. And Excel, as you know, has like a lot of pros, very flexible, very powerful in its own right. But one of the big challenges is that, data doesn't talk to each other. So if you have all the data split into many spreadsheets, how do you kind of bring everything together and make it talk and make it more systematized? So my first task at Hildene was to take this major repository of data and then do a massive data engineering exercise to bring it all under one roof and really align all the different pieces together. What it also meant was that we couldn't use a puny data server. We had to go to the cloud, create our cloud computing infrastructure as well, from virtual machines to data warehousing to data lakes. And once all of that was done, then we could graduate to making analytics software as well as dashboards, which are being used by the investment team currently to inform their buy sell decisions. Since then, like, we've written many functions, and really now delivering data real time to our portfolio management team to make decisions on the fly. And like, if I were to say, like, it's made us more organized and made us take better decisions than we would have otherwise. And one of the big things which also came about was, like others, we were relying on a third-party software which was costing us $700,000 a year. But last year we replaced it with our in-house systems. On the data science side, I would say that one of the big things that we've done is that we've created a lot of processes to clean and scrub the data. And one of the big things that being in control of your data gives you is that you can be very deliberate about any decisions that you're making, big or small, whether it's as simple as, how do you clean and populate a column with, how do you kind of take care of null values, to what is the overall design of your database, because there are certain tasks that may be done better if you design a database a certain way versus another way. We've also spent a lot of time doing a lot of feature engineering and combining different bits and pieces of information in smart and innovative ways using our domain knowledge. Sometimes that's taken us down rabbit holes. So we would start trying to solve one problem by looking into the data, but then as you're looking into the data, you realize that, we got to look at this and this too, and that may, be interesting in its own right. So we've projects have been spawned by us looking into data as well. And with complete ownership of our data, having confidence in the integrity, we've since written algos which have really helped us garner insights and take advantage of certain market conditions before the competition has.
Yeah, that sounds great. And what are some challenges that you kind of had applying machine learning and artificial intelligence to investment data specifically?
I think the challenges of applying machine learning and AI to finance start with the problem statement itself in a way. So if you were like, classic task that comes to mind is, identifying cat pictures versus dog pictures, right? So if you're training a neural net to do that, there are many challenges with respect to that task itself also, but that the output is deterministic. What I mean by that is, if you were to show a human expert a picture of a cat or a picture of a dog, as long as it's not blurry, they will be able to tell with 100% certainty that this is a cat or a dog. Even with like a more complicated task like machine translation, if you show a French expert who knows English that how do you translate this phrase into French, they will be able to tell you 3 or 4 different valid translations. What happens with finance is you're basically asking your models to take the data, ingest them, regurgitate them, and come up with predictions, which would be subject to many factors and paradigm shifts. And in a way, you're using it as a way to make investments in the future, which are deeply probabilistic to begin with. So that ends up being like a problem before you've even started applying. The fact that you're actually asking it to make probabilistic statements. Another thing is how do you kind of marry your results to your intuition? Now, you could certainly take the black box approach and say that the model is the model and it produces the results it does, and I'm going to just follow them blindly. But those sorts of models work till they don't, and when they don't work, they fail catastrophically. To give you an example of a recent example where models have failed, and some of the challenges that have come about is the COVID pandemic and the performance of the consumer. A lot of the models, look back at previous episodes. 2008, 2009 was one of the good ones where you had a lot of rich data, and people calibrated their models to the unemployment experience as well as GDP vectors, and ended up predicting that the consumer, given the shock to the system, is going to perform very poorly. And at like super high unemployment, unprecedented negative GDP, you will see the performance on the consumer be really bad. And as a result, all of these securities backed by consumer credit are going to suffer. What came about was nothing like that. And the big disconnect was the fact that there was so much stimulus being pumped by the government into the system. In many cases, people were making more than they were making pre-COVID just by being unemployed and collecting their unemployment checks. So people had more disposable income, and a lot of the models, they ended up missing that. So all of these models, models by general, like in general, have certain biases, and it's very important to analyze the errors. I strongly feel that models should try and map the organic process underlying which you're trying to mimic in the first place, and really kind of go after trying to create the same sort of decision making within your model as it takes place on the ground in the real world. Whether it is the decisions that a consumer is making before deciding to pay their mortgage or the credit card, or the decision, let's say, an underwriter is making when it comes to originating a loan. Overall, I think in finance, taking the kitchen sink approach and saying that, what, I'm going to throw everything into the meat grinder and let's see what my model says, generally doesn't work. I think a better approach overall is to train your model on subtasks at every step, marrying it to your intuition, and really combining these subtasks, either using machine learning AI or by some other method, to create like a rich ensemble while at the same time retaining your intuition.
Yeah, definitely. And I wanted to also just jump into the topic of a lot of companies are wanting to use data science, machine learning, AI in their companies. A lot of them claim that they want to use it, but they're having a lot of trouble using it. And specifically in the investment management industry, do you think that this industry is lagging or behind in terms of using this modern data science? Or do you think they're kind of ahead or just on par with everybody? What are your thoughts on this?
I feel finance is definitely lagged, and there are various reasons for it. Well, modern data science in and of itself is a pretty young field when all is said and done. In the last 10 years, it's exploded, and the amount of progress that we've made is just stunning. What's happened in finance in parallel at the same time is, we were coming out of the financial crisis, and the focus was more on regulation, compliance in the broader financial world, and sort of more on not repeating the mistakes of the past, much more so than on innovation. And what has happened as a result also is that the best talent coming out of the schools has gravitated to other places. Whereas in the 90s and the 2000s, we saw these people coming into finance, now they've gone elsewhere. And even as recently as 2017, 2018, when I was having these conversations that I was telling you, people, of applying, machine learning and AI to finance and how data can be used to gain an edge, sometimes, people would look at me as if I had two heads. So we've definitely lagged. And like another big thing with how financial firms are set up, especially the bigger ones, is that finance, portfolio management and trading is a separate function, technology is a separate function, data science, or like whatever the old term for it was, PhDs would be in a separate silo, and they would not always speak the same language or be housed under one roof. This is where I think Hildene is different. At Hildene, trading, portfolio management, quantitative and fundamental research, as well as investment technology, they all sit under one roof, and together we form one team. And also in terms of the people that work on our teams, they wear multiple hats through the day. Like for instance, I would be managing my team one moment, and the next moment I would be trading, and then I would be doing some fundamental research, and at the end of the day I'm coding some idea that may have come to me at the beginning of the day. So given the fact that the way that we're set up and the fact that we have recognized this opportunity a lot earlier than some of our competitors have, hopefully stands us in good stead for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, definitely. I know that data science has definitely changed and evolved a lot throughout the years. And so it's great to hear your insights for your specific industry as well. And I wanted to say thank you so much, Jatin, for joining us today. Where can everyone find you online just to connect with you?
Sure. Yeah. So firstly, like Data Standard is a great initiative, and you're doing a great thing for the community overall. The two things that interest me are, like, firstly, I'm impressed by the swath of industries covered by Data Standard. If there are networking opportunities, ways to reach out to fellow speakers, I think that would be awesome, because I feel that the best ideas come from cross-pollination across domains. That's where you can get creative. And the other thing is that, we are always looking for smart, young, hungry athletes to join our team. If you can wear multiple hats, if you've been listening and this stuff excites you, reach out.
Yeah, Perfect. And to our audience, for more information on the data standard, you can find us at www.datastandard.io. So thank you so much, Jatin, for joining us. It was so great to have you on the show today.
Likewise, Catherine, appreciate you calling me for one.